Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about a new mega palette from ColourPop. This is the Gettin Fresh palette. This is launching on Thursday, May 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so make sure you check your time zones. Give it a little Google if you need to. This palette will be priced at $34 US. Coupon code should work for this palette. I do have an affiliate code. It's just my first name, Amanda. You can use that to save 10% on pretty much everything on the ColourPop site. That is an affiliate code, so I earn a commission just to be totally above board. I'm going to show you just a handful of comparisons. I'll show you swatches. I'll show you a tutorial for this eye look, which I absolutely love. It's so simple, but it is just so fun and bright and summery and has such a pop of metallic green that makes me really happy inside. So I'm going to show you all of those things. First, let's start with a close-up look at this palette and its packaging. When it comes to the packaging of this Gettin Fresh palette, it's pretty standard for their mega palettes, same shape and size as all of the mega palettes we've seen before as far as Bare Necessity, Stone Cold Fox. It has the smaller eyeshadow pans like those palettes, so this is very standard sized. We do have one shade in this palette, this one called Gone Bad. It's the bright pink that you'll see later that has the not intended for eye area warning, likely due to pigments. I will link more information down in the description box if you want to know what that's all about. I do like the iridescent foiled details on here. I just think this is really pretty and it adds a little something special to a very basic pink packaging of this palette. When we open up inside, just like the other mega palettes, there is no mirror. This is their standard heavy-duty cardboard packaging with a magnetic closure. Just says ColourPop on the top there, where there would be a mirror. And then we see all 30 shades laid out inside. These do have the shade names inside next to the pans, as is standard for ColourPop. And the color story here is very much neutral, peachy neutrals with some greens in here. Now there is more color added than, for example, the Stay Golden palette, but it is pretty overwhelmingly neutral, and you'll see that more as we go through the swatches, but it's pretty apparent just glancing in here. We do have a variety of finishes in here. There are no pressed glitters. There are 2 foiled shadows. Then we have 13 true mattes, 3 mattes with glitter, and 12 shimmers. Amongst the regular shimmers, there are some shifty shades. I'm not sure how many will officially be duochromes, but there is a little bit of shift in some of these shimmers as well. Next, I want to show you some swatches and comparisons. Let's start with just finger and brush swatches of this Gettin Fresh palette. A lot of their mega palettes have been laid out in columns of colors. This one is very scattered. So I still swatched it 2 columns at a time just to have some sort of order and not jam too many colors in on my arm at once so you can really see what the shades look like and the textures look like. The scattered nature of this palette is one of my complaints, but we'll get to my thoughts later on. First, let's just look at the swatches of this palette. As always, finger swatches are on top, brush swatches are below. These are the first 2 columns of the palette. I'm going to show you an overview like this, and then we'll do really close up so that you can see the textures and the colors close up as well. This gold shade here on the end, it's called 2 a.m. Call, and it's one of the 2 foiled shadows. I think you can tell the difference in the intensity of the metallic there. And texturally, it does feel a bit different to the touch. We've seen these little foily shadows in a few palettes before. A few examples that come to mind to me are the California Love palette, the All That palette. I think the Good as Gold palette had 1 or 2 of these foiled shadows as well. So if you have those palettes or if you've seen those in person, then you can kind of get a sense of what the texture of these foils are. Now, the other foiled shadow is in this round of swatches. It's that coppery shade that's called Kickback. And I think you can tell, especially in the brush swatch, how differently this applies versus just their standard shimmer shades. I really like these foiled shadows, and I'm glad to see these instead of the Super Shocks in the palettes. I always find the Super Shocks in the palettes tend to be not quite as intense as the individual Super Shocks. So I love this variety of texture. I'm glad that they're going with the foiled shadows versus pressed glitters to add different textures. Just personal choice. I'm not a big fan of the pressed glitters. So I like the variety of texture in this palette. And performance-wise, everything seems to be very consistent. I didn't have any shades that seemed like duds or dry or patchy, and I think you can tell that from these different finger and brush swatches here. We have a pretty consistent performance. I like the addition of this little mustard yellow matte shade. I think that they were on to a really good idea with this palette. I do wish that it was just a little bit more colorful and not quite so neutral heavy, but we'll talk about my overall preferences of this palette just a little bit later on after we finish the comparison swatches. I do have just a handful of comparisons that I want to do for this palette. Let's call it like it is. This is an overwhelmingly peachy neutral palette with some really bright green shades. With, of course, the one classic really sheer blue-brown duochrome that they like to put in every palette when they want to put a duochrome in. So I didn't want to bend over backwards doing a bunch of neutral comparisons. They're neutrals. You have them. They're in the other palettes. They're in every other palette. They're in every other ColourPop palette. Well, maybe not. They've done a few cool tone neutrals lately, but whichever ones you're thinking of, they're probably the same. So I just did a handful of palettes that first came to mind for me when I saw this color story. So we're not getting a full, complete comparison. I really wanted to do comparisons revolving more around the greens. The only one that I didn't do is the garden variety. I think a lot of people are going to think of that when they see this because that one also is a bunch of neutrals with one bright green in there. That one has quite a few purple shades in it, and this Gettin Fresh palette has no purples. It's all brown, peachy neutral. It's like a couple of gold and some bright greens in here. So it's the same idea, but not as many decent one-to-one comparisons. But I definitely acknowledge that's one that's probably going to come to mind for a lot of people. It's just not really as similar as the ones that I'm going to show you. So let me stop talking about it and show you just a couple of comparisons now. I may not have a ton of comparisons for this palette, but I do have some pretty dead-on matches for the shades that I did choose to compare. Here you can see the In the Limelight palette has some exact dupes and then some that are definitely close enough in my opinion. And these are truly all of the green pops from the Gettin Fresh palette. So if you have any peachy neutral and In the Limelight, then you already have these shades. The She's Got Solstice palette comparisons are very shocking to me. I thought that they would be similar. I didn't think they would be this exact. I mean, really, maybe two of the mattes are different enough, but overall, you are getting the same eye looks from these palettes. There is no convincing me otherwise. This is a mega She's Got Solstice. And sort of the same thing here for Wild Nothing. Now, perhaps if you don't have these three palettes that I compared with here, then this mega palette will be a really concise way to cover all of these shades. But just be aware, if you already have any of the comparison palettes, there are some strong dupes in this Gettin Fresh palette. Lastly, I want to do a tutorial for this eye look that I'm wearing today. I absolutely love how this turned out. And instead of narrating the steps of the eye look, I'll just give you my thoughts on this palette along the way. Now, I realize that not everybody is a freak like me that has every ColourPop palette under the sun. And if you don't have these previous palettes, this one is a great addition. I mean, performance-wise, it's fantastic. All of the shadows have worn well, applied easily. I love the eye look that I came out with. And all in all, I like this color story. I'm not opposed to this color story at all. I've been growing and growing in my love of green eyeshadow, so anytime there's green in a palette, I'm automatically intrigued. I do wish that they had pushed the green a little bit more forward and pulled back on the neutrals, because these neutrals do seem to be pretty repetitive, not just in the ColourPop line, but in this palette as well. It seems like there just could have been a better use of space. So I will show you after the tutorial's over what I would have liked to see this palette look like. And I don't want to eliminate the neutrals, but I just wish that it was a little bit more balanced as far as the colors and the neutrals. And I also just don't like how scattered this palette is. I prefer it when the rows or columns are more easily recognizable as color stories. I like it to just be a little bit more organized, and that's a personal preference. Everybody may not feel the same way. Some people may be more inspired by the setup here, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Personally, I just find it to be a little bit more user friendly if the shadows are organized into recognizable color stories. But you know, that's just one person's opinion. Maybe you like using these color stories. If you just take a column here or a row here, you're going to get a non-monochromatic look for the most part, and that can be kind of fun too. So maybe that was the idea here. I don't dislike that. I just wish it was a little bit more visually pleasing to the eye. But I came out with a great look. The shadows were easy to work with. I honestly was so in love with this look. I can't wait to wear this over and over and over again. So performance-wise, color story-wise, it's working for me at the end of the day. Now, I would have done a little bit more green forward. So here's my idea. I don't want to eliminate these peachy neutrals at all. I think they tend to work really, really well with greens and blues, but I would have liked to see the color story pushed a little bit more. So this is my idea for the Gettin Fresh palette. I would have liked to see a little bit of blue and green mixed in with these peachy neutrals. I think so many beautiful looks could come from this color story. And I did rearrange it to be a little bit more visually pleasing, at least in terms of what I prefer. Let me know what you think. Would you be interested in my version that's a little bit more color forward, or do you really prefer the more neutral heavy palette? That's okay too. Like I said, I came out with a great look. I really liked the performance, and overall, maybe even if it was just rearranged, I would find it a little bit easier to digest, but this is what I would have liked to see from this palette. Now's the time when I want to hear what you think about this palette. Are you interested? Do you already feel like you have these shades? Are you like me and you wish that it had been arranged a little differently? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Did you find him? Great, thank you. Were we just talking about how they always put the same little blue-brown shifty sheer duochrome in like every palette when they want to do a duochrome? At least there are a couple others in this one now, but it's kind of funny that I just said that in a video not too long ago, and then here it is. Oh. Hi, Maggie. Hi, baby dog. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, I'm almost done. I know. Can you stop? She's trying to open up my little PR packages now. Maggie. Okay, this is really cute, and if you don't care at all about rescue dogs, then first of all, why not? And second of all, just ignore this part then, because this is adorable. I was so sad because when we first got Maggie, she never wagged her tail, and my dog who died last year, who was like the love of my life, best dog ever, you know, if you even just like looked at her, she would start wagging her tail. And now every time I say Maggie's name, she wags her tail, and it makes me want to cry because it makes me so happy. And she's okay, sorry, anyway. I'm fine. I have so many feelings. Okay, I forget what I was saying though because I got distracted by my dog. Can anybody relate? Do you want to be in the video, Maggie? Do you want to be in the video? Oh, thank you for these kisses. Oh, thank you for these kisses. Okay, see you later. Now, if that wasn't cute and heartwarming, then I don't know what is. This little green right here is just so brightening and just so fun. I love it. I'm gonna do this with a million different eye looks now because this looks so good. It looks so cute. Sometimes you're just feeling yourself, you know? In a lot of their, none of those were a sentence. I'm not even sure any of those were words. They weren't. Okay. Do you feel like I do? Are you like me and you wish that it had we'll just, it's fine. We'll just skip that part. Tired. Lots to do and not a lot of time to do it. Alright. I hope this was helpful. Sorry I didn't do that many comparisons, but, you know, there's only so many hours in a day. I am but one person. And I just appreciate you being here, and I love your face, and I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that if you don't have a great day, that tomorrow will be better. We'll stick it out together, okay? You're doing a good job. You're doing it. Alright, bye-bye. Bye.